Michael Parrish is the father of Hayden Overman and Savannah Parrish. He served for over 20 years in the U.S. Coast Guard and retired from duty on November 1st, 2023.
Joseph Joe Carlos Jackholm is the grandfather of Joe Carlos Barnes. He is a retired Master Sergeant in the United States Air Force. He served 27 years in the U.S. Air Force and served 2 tours of duty in Vietnam.
Roy Wayne Pierce is Ty Pierce's grandfather. He served in the U.S. Army. My poppy is a hero. Thank you for serving your country, sir.
Tyler Easton's dad, Jimmy, has been in the armed forces since 1990. He started out in the Navy. He attended the Navy Nuclear Power School and finished at the top of his class. He later became a civilian but remained in the Navy Reserves. Presently, he is serving in the Air Force Reserves. He will be retiring this December. Tyler's dad was activated just before Tyler was born as part of the rebuilding process in Iraq in 2007. He returned home when Tyler was 5 months old.
Emmett and Shyla Richards' dad is in the U.S. Air Force, where he flies the Strike Eagles at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. His name is Malcolm Richards. They love to wear his patches and watch him zoom through the sky.
Marvin D. Holcomb is the grandfather of 3 WCS students, Levi Bedford, Veda Fletcher, and Stella Fletcher. He was active duty from December 1976 to December 1980. His highest rank was sergeant. He served as platoon sergeant and team leader in the 2nd Recon Battalion, Camp Lejeune. Once a Marine, always a Marine. He currently serves as the commandant of the local Marine Corps League detachment and also belongs to the American Legion, Legion Riders, and the Patriot Guard, escorting veterans to their final resting place. He puts flags on veterans' graves for Memorial Day and participates with wreaths across America each fall. Semper Fi.
Scott Bailey is Mason Bailey's dad. He served in the Navy during the Desert Storm as an operations specialist on the USS Theodore Roosevelt.
Master Sergeant Gary D. McClure served 22 years in the U.S. Air Force. He is the grandfather of Jacob and Nathan Oliver.
Stephanie Navarro is John and Catalea Gainey's older sister.
My veteran's name is Ben Holt. He served in the United States Air Force for 24 years. While in the Air Force, he was deployed 6 different times. This veteran is my dad. He means the world to me. Yes, he was gone for some major parts of my life, but that will never determine my love for him. He was always there when the duty called, and he always came home safe. I am very fortunate that he did because some veterans did not. Even when he was deployed or hours away from his family, he always put us first and came to us. He is so important to me because if it wasn't for him and my mom, I wouldn't be the young woman I am becoming today. I can never tell him that I love him enough.
Haley Currents is the older sister of Colin and Blake Abernathy. She is an active duty Air Force member who is currently stationed in Colorado. She is loved beyond measure and missed.
William Pearson III is the father of Tristan Pearson and James Pearson. He is a U.S. Air Force retiree who worked 22 years in AMA. The boy said, "Our dad is important in our lives for so many reasons, but his career in the Air Force taught us the value of discipline, honor, sacrifice, and love for our country."
Todd Walker, husband of Miss Chanel Walker, is currently a colonel in the U.S. Air Force. This picture was taken in October when he returned home from his deployment.
Mr. Mark Stiegelmeyer, high school Bible teacher, served in the Marine Corps from 1992 to 1996. Chuck Lindley, Mrs. Rebecca Stiegelmeyer's father, served in the U.S. Navy from 1965 to 1985. He was a Vietnam veteran.
Lauren Renault, Miss Lynette Thomas's cousin, is a retired lieutenant general from the United States Air Force. He spent 38 years working from flight lines to the Pentagon. He studied at many universities including Cedarville, UNC, and Harvard. He is the recipient of several awards including Defense Superior Service Medal and is the author of 10 Leadership Maneuvers. He is currently the senior advisor of the president of Cedarville University. His motto is Servant Leadership and General for Christ.
Captain Joseph Dietrich serves in the United States Air Force, but Leo and Elliot Dietrich just call him Dad.
Master Sergeant Matthew Oresman is an air traffic controller at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. He has served for 19 years with assignments in Idaho, Turkey, the Azores, Germany, Florida, and North Carolina. He has deployed twice in Iraq, once in the United Arab Emirates, and twice to Saudi Arabia. His greatest accomplishment is being a father to 6 wonderful children, including Grace Bagosi and Ari Oresman, both students at Wayne Christian School.
Shania Williams currently serves in the United States Air Force.
She's a former WCS student in the class of 2023. She is the sister of Siani Williams and Ty Buskey. Shania is the first female in her family to join the Air Force. She graduated from basic training in September and is headed to Hawaii for her first duty station. We are extremely proud of Shania and look forward to this journey with her.
Master Sergeant Sean Ellis is currently serving at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. He was also stationed at Whiteman Air Force Base, Missouri, Incirlik Air Base, Turkey, and Langley Air Force Base, Virginia. He has also had quite a few deployments to the Middle East and one to Asia. He has served 18 and a half years of active duty and a few more until retirement. The Ellises are proud of our guy.
Senior Master Sergeant Jamie Monzingo, father of Brooklyn Monzingo, has served with the U.S. Air Force Reserves at Seymour Johnson since 2003 and is a veteran of Operation Iraqi Freedom Enduring Freedom. He's joined the military after 9/11 happened because he says he wanted to do his part to keep our family and other Americans safe. Brooklyn is proud of him being in the military even though it is hard when he has to travel all over the world.
These are military family members of Jace Brown. His stepdad, Robert Garmendia, is a retired Air Force air traffic controller. His grandfather, Kyle Robbins, is retired Air Force from the 334th Squadron. Colton Zogelman, his brother-in-law, is currently serving in the Marines in Jacksonville, North Carolina as a machine gunner.
Bruce Losey is Micah, Hannah, and Carter Losey's grandfather. He served in the Navy. Their father, Morgan Losey, is in the United States Air Force and stationed at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base.
Tony Peck served for 4 years in the U.S. Marines on the front lines in Operation Iraqi Freedom in Iraq and Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan, where he lost his best friend and roommate in battle. Master Sergeant Mark Peck, now retired, served for 22 years in the U.S. Air Force. He served in Saudi Arabia, Operation Southern Watch, Saddam's non-compliance with UN resolutions, Balkasir, Turkey, Operation Allied Force for the Bosnian Crisis, and Afghanistan, Operation Enduring Freedom, in Bagram, Afghanistan.
Svetlana Mitrofanova is Aliyah Mitrofanova's mom. I served in the U.S. Air Force from 2006 to 2010. It was the best experience of my life besides having children. Aliyah's uncle Iger, my brother, is currently serving in the U.S. Air Force as well. He is stationed in California and he is a Master Sergeant.
This is Grayson Heath's grandparents. Thank you for your sacrifice and for serving our country.
This is Deanna Thomas, high school English teacher, served in the U.S. Air Force.
Matthew Peck served in the U.S. Navy for 6 years on the USS Coronado and in the Balboa Naval Medical Center.
Tech Sergeant Terry Hayes, Miss Stephanie Jarman's father, served in the U.S. Air Force from 1983 to 1989, then re-enlisted from 2003 to 2010 to serve his country again following the terror attacks of 9/11. He fought in Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation Enduring Freedom, and Operation Noble Eagle. I am so proud to be the daughter of this American hero.
Becky Ross, Olivia Ross's mother, serves in the U.S. Air Force at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base.
Nick Machichak, father of Nadia Machichak, is currently serving in Korea and is deeply missed by his family. We are praying for a quick tour and a safe return home in fall 2025.
Taylor Bender Gifford is the father of Elijah, Luke, Cole, and Eva Gifford. He serves in the U.S. Air Force at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base.
Richard Bankovich has served in the U.S. Air Force for 23 years. Maria Bankovich served in the U.S. Army from 1998 to 2002 and served in the U.S. Air Force from 2002 to 2004.
Lamont Wilson, family member of Cheyenne and Kyler Corps, served in the Army.
Jacob Balucha, the father of Marie, is the veteran in their family. He has had 20 years of service, and he is retiring next year at 21 years of service. He deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan, Korea, Qatar, and Europe. He is currently serving at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base as a ground liaison officer. When he asked Marie why her father is an important part of her life, she said it's because Daddy protects me from the bad guys.
AJ's parents are both Air Force veterans, and he has about 12 other relatives who have served in the Air Force, Army, and Navy. AJ's mom, Carolyn Herrick, served in the Air Force for about 12 years, and AJ's father, John Herrick, served in the Air Force for 28 years and retired as a Chief Master Sergeant last October. He recently did a presentation on forensic photography in Mr. Almayak's forensic science class. AJ's great-uncle Jim Herrick was an A-1 Skyraider pilot and is still missing in action from the Vietnam War when his plane went down over Laos in 1969.
These are the family members of the Acres and Fonsecas. Rick Owens served in the Army in Desert Storm. Grover Owens served in the Army Air Corps during the Korean War. Kevin Acres served in the United States Air Force Reserves during Operation Iraqi Freedom.
John Tanner Pine's Nana, Sergeant Beverly G. Kennedy, served in the Air Force for 3 years. These are her grandparents, Foster and Thelma Gregg, JT's great-grandparents. JT's grandfather fulfilled his 6-year obligation. He joined on September 4, 1969. He was inactive for 2 years and on standby for 2 years. He was honorably discharged in September 1975. John Tanner Pine's papa, Master Sergeant Patrick Saunders Kennedy, is refueling the 135 and KC-10 as a boom operator. He served 24 years in the military before retiring. He has taught JT everything he knows about our country's history, and his hero is his papa. Fun fact, JT's papa's name is on the McKay Trophy in the Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C. JT is proud of all of his grandparents who served.
Senior Master Sergeant Scott Bauer is Jacob Bauer's dad. He served 23 years in the Air Force and retired in 2016. We are so proud of the long career he had as a crew chief in the Air Force, but are so thankful he's now home every night and no longer having to leave for TDYs and deployments.
Michael Couch is the father of Michael Couch, and Frank Couch is his grandfather. Frank Couch served in the Army from April 12, 1968 to April 2, 1989, and he retired as a Sergeant First Class. Michael Couch served in the Air Force from April 15, 1998 to April 30, 2018, and he retired as a Technical Sergeant. Michael was stationed at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, Kadena Air Base, Aviano Air Base, and Mountain Home Air Force Base. Michael served as an F-15 and F-16 crew chief, assistant flight chief, quality assurance inspector, data integrity manager, deficiency analyst manager, and end of runway operations superintendent.
These photos are of my grandparents who have served in the Marines and the Army. Having family who have served in the military is very special. Not only have they protected us at one point, but they also have protected and served our country. Without the brave, we wouldn't be the land of the free.
Courtney Horton's father, Frederick Henry Barons Jr., passed away in November 2020. He served in the United States Navy. All of his grandkids go to WCS. Vaughn, Gabriella, Tristan Horton, and Nicholas Douglas.
Mrs. Amber Thompson's husband, Aaron Thompson, served in the U.S. Air Force for 23 years. He retired in 2022. During his years of service, their family was stationed at Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, Laken Heath in England, Edwards Air Force Base in California, and Seymour Johnson's Air Force Base in North Carolina. Mrs. Thompson's dad also served in the U.S. Army for 2 years.
Donald Anderson Sr., great-grandpa to Dylan and Alyssa Byrd, served in the United States Navy. He was stationed in Norfolk, Virginia. He was deployed to Greece, Rome, and Australia. Their cousin Henry Richardson served in the United States Army for 34 years as a chief warrant officer. He was stationed at Fort Story, Virginia, Fort Dix, New Jersey, Fort Devens, Massachusetts, Fort Jackson, South Carolina, Fort Benning, Georgia, Fort Lewis, Washington, Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and Schofield Barracks, Hawaii. He was deployed to Fort Wainwright, Alaska, where he had the opportunity to pan for gold, and to Guatemala, where he lived in a jungle surrounded by iguanas and scorpions. Overseas, he was stationed in Korea, and while in Korea, he got to see President Reagan when he visited. He was stationed in Germany 3 times and was there when the Berlin Wall came down. He was stationed in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, where he got to go shark tooth hunting in the desert. He deployed to Iraq 3 times, once for Desert Shield and Desert Storm, once for Iraqi Freedom and Operation New Dawn.
Major Andrew Munoz is the father of Eda Munoz. He's had 4 overseas combat deployments in support of Operation Inherent Resolve, Operation Poseidon Archer, and Operation Spartan Shield. He is a hero in the jet and a hero as a dad, and we love him very much.
Kendall Violet is in Mrs. Deck's first grade class, and these are some of the veterans in her family. Kendall's paternal great-grandfather, Roland Violet, was drafted into the Army and served many years in Germany. He worked in the infantry. Her maternal great-grandfather, William Marshall, was drafted into the Air Force and was stationed in Colorado and Mississippi. He worked in radio and communications. Kendall's paternal grandfather, Daniel Violet, served over 20 years in the Air Force. He was stationed in Florida, Alaska, Hawaii, and several countries overseas. He also deployed many times after the 9/11 attacks. He worked as a munitions specialist. Her father, Joseph Violet, is still active duty Air Force. He has been serving for 9 years. He has served in Washington, D.C. and North Carolina. He works as a budget analyst. Kendall's uncle, George Biashvili, served in the Army at Fort Bragg. He worked in psychological operations in the Special Forces and also served as a Russian and Georgian translator. Kendall's mother, Natalie Violet, served in the Air Force for 5 years. She was stationed in Washington, D.C. and worked as an aerospace medic.
Adelaide Johnson's papa served in the Air Force for 23 years. She says he means a lot to me because he likes to spend time with me, and we like to take walks and explore. One time we found this big snapping turtle. It was stuck between some big rocks, and he used his cane to get the turtle out. He is also funny to be around. This is a picture of us on the roller coaster ride, Verb Bolton at Busch Gardens.
Sophia and Sadie's dad is Tech Sergeant Gus Monaco. He is an active duty Air Force and is currently stationed in Korea.
Private Kaylee Bird serves in Jacksonville, North Carolina in the United States Marine Corps. Kaylee graduated from boot camp October 4th, 2024 and is working towards her career in logistics. She is the big sister to second grader Alyssa Woodard. Alyssa's big brother, Private First Class Austin Bird, serves in the National Guard Reserves as a United States Marine. He has served 4 years active duty and is now part-time with the National Guard in South Carolina. We are thankful for all that serve and their families.
Lieutenant Colonel Jack Moore, grandfather of Beckett Rayner and Graylin Rayner, retired from the United States Marine Corps. Our grandfather is an important part of our lives because he teaches us the value of commitment and hard work. He reminds us to always do our best and help those in need.
James Crumpler, great-grandfather of Jackson and Channing Rouse, served as a Master Sergeant for over 25 years. Jackson said, "I enjoyed a lot about him, but was lucky to be able to hear lots of his war stories. He never would tell me about his secret mission, although I tried for years."
Gregory May served in the U.S. Navy from 1995 to 2005. He spent nearly 10 years in the submarine force as a missile technician. His love for his family and for his nation never diminished. Both his family and this nation have benefited from his selfless service.
Bruce Wilson, Mrs. Heather Summers' father, served in the United States military.
Chief Wesley Martin Johnson, grandfather of Carter Johnson and Emma Johnson, served in the United States Coast Guard from 1977 to 1997. He is now retired. Carter and Emma said, "I'm proud because he's my granddaddy. I'm proud because he served our country."
Master Sergeant Eric Buss, U.S. Air Force, Isla Harrison's stepdad, is currently stationed at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. Major Casey Axel Heckman, Grace and Nora's dad, is currently serving as an F-15E instructor pilot at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. Grace and Nora said, "He is important to us because he is our dad and he keeps the world safe."
Tim Helly, Jacob Rayburn, Ryan Rayburn, Patrick Rayburn, and Doug Self are the uncle, cousin, grandfather, dad, and great-grandfather of Leah, Kara, and Hallie Rayburn. 4 generations have served in the Air Force, Army, and Coast Guard. Patrick Rayburn, father of Leah, Kara, and Hallie Rayburn, spent 16 years of service in the Army. He is our true hero. We love you, Dad. In addition, R.V. Rayburn served in the Army.
Xander Salazar's stepdad, Captain Tyler Pabst, is a pilot in the U.S. Air Force. He is currently stationed at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. He works hard every day and sacrifices so much to serve our country. He is proud to serve in the Air Force and sets a great example for hard work and dedication to his country and his family. Corporal Anthony Nuzzo, Xander's grandpa, served in Germany and was part of post-World War II rebuilding. He is now 92 years old and proudly recalls his time serving.
Jack Morgan is the proud grandfather of Paisley Morgan. Her pa served in the Navy as a radar man on the aircraft carrier, the USS Kitty Hawk. He made 2 tours to Vietnam. Today, Pa spends lots of time teaching her about the world and spoiling her.
Chris White, Bella White's father, served in the Army from 1998 to 2010 and was awarded the Combat Action Badge in Iraq during Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2004. Bella said, "My dad is important because he was in the military fighting for our country. He let me get a cat, which was one of my dreams. He lets me go to places where my mom doesn't take me."
Brandon Griffin is an Army veteran. His family says, "He fought for us, our freedom and our country. He protects us, he loves us.
He provides for us and guides our family in the right direction. He is the best God-fearing man, husband, and father anyone could ask for. He is the most selfless human being in this world. He is our hero, and we all love you and thank you for all your sacrifices each and every day.
Jose Vasquez served in the U.S. military. We are thankful that our pa served our country and kept us safe.
Oliver and Bex Havery's grandfather and great-grandfather had their names listed on the Richard Bond Veterans Historical Center in Minnesota. Christopher Havery and Lester Havery both served in the U.S. Army.
Valerie and Alan Perkinson, Crosby and Cameron's parents, served in the United States military. Mr. and Mrs. Perkins says, "Thank you for making this day special for our children, who are often the ones sacrificing the most while we serve."
Gerald Darden is Grayson Darden's grandpa. He served in the U.S. Army 3rd Armored Cavalry from 1968 to 1970. Grayson's Uncle Eddie Sanders served in the 82nd Airborne Division, 182nd Attack Helicopter Regiment, and 82nd Combat Aviation Brigade. He served from October 1977 to October 1997.
Casey Chilcote is Ella and Maxie Chilcote's dad. He is a tech sergeant in the United States Air Force at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. He's on his 3rd deployment in the Middle East, helping to protect our country.
Travis Mullenix has served in the United States Air Force for 18 years, and he is currently stationed at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. He recently returned home from a deployment.
My name is Lieutenant Colonel Brian Dickens, and I grew up in Laurinburg, North Carolina. I'm the father of Avalee, Knox, and Gentry. I'm retiring on November 1st after 21 and a half years in the Air Force as a pilot. I commissioned in the United States Air Force out of the ECU ROTC department in May 2003. I flew air refuelers throughout my 21-year career. Katie and I were stationed in Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, and North Carolina. I was fortunate to fly to over 25 countries and 49 of the 50 states. I spent most of my time between 2005 and 2017 in the Middle East, flying combat missions. I tallied nearly 250 combat missions, amassing 1,900 combat hours. In total, I flew 6,000 hours and deployed 17 times. My wife, Katie, was there every step of the way. I want to make sure she is honored as well because she sacrificed as much as I did. Our children were lucky enough to be born in North Carolina and not have to move every 3 years. My family was a huge support team and I love them dearly.
Kenneth Ray Wilkins is the great-uncle of Cameron Wilkins. He served in the Marine Corps as a Master Sergeant from December 1969 to December 1989. He served in France, Spain, Egypt, Japan, Korea, Philippines, Panama, Barbados, Puerto Rico, Norway, Greece, and Kenya. During his travels, he crossed the equator. He worked on Marine Helicopter Squadron 1 under President Richard Nixon, President Gerald Ford, and President Jimmy Carter. He made routine visits to Camp David to maintain helicopter maintenance. Cameron says, "Thank you for your service, Uncle Ray. Appreciate you. Love you."
My brother, Frank Goodson III, is stationed in Fairbanks, Alaska. He joined the Army in 2008. He has been stationed in the Philippines, Korea, Texas, and Hawaii. He loves his family and his country, and we admire him so much. He is a nurse currently working at the base hospital. He is married to Angel. They have 4 girls, and they're expecting their 5th child in January.
Joel Dean Hightower, Mrs. Jessie Rowe's father, is a veteran who served in the U.S. Navy.
Lexi and Kylie, our news grandfather, served in the United States Air Force and he retired after 26 years.
Mr. Carl Corbett, high school history teacher, serves in the U.S. Air Force at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base.
Several family members of Michaela and Abbott Alves served in the United States military. Chief Master Sergeant Frederick Alves and Chief Master Sergeant Stephen W. Alves served in the 1940s. Chief Master Sergeant Jerome Alves and Corporal Robert Alves also served in the military. Abbott said, "I'm so proud of all my grandfathers who served our country and were so brave. I bet they flew cool jets and drove a lot of cool tanks."
Lieutenant Colonel Nathan Marshall, the father of MJ, Gabby, Naomi, and Chloe, retired in 2022 after serving in the United States Air Force as a weapons system operator in the F-15E over 20 years. Their grandfather, Michael Brooks, served for 12 years in the United States Air Force as a KC-10 and KC-135 pilot. Their great-grandfather, Richard Buchholz, served in the U.S. Navy during World War II.
My father, grandfather, and great-grandfather are veterans, and they worked very hard to fight for our country. They saved many lives even though they knew that the cost might be theirs. They are very inspirational, and they are one of the many reasons that I want to fight for my country also.
Brian Burgos joined the Air Force in the year 2000. He traveled to Korea, New Mexico, Germany, and lastly Goldsboro, where he actually lives after 8 years of service. He worked as an avionics technician on the F-117 Nighthawk and also as a member of Gold Flag, now AFREP. He is the proud dad of Victoria and Sebastian Burgos. Kimberly Bedoya, the mother of John and Catalea, said, "I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude for the selfless and serving spirit that defines our family. As a big military family, we have a profound appreciation for the sacrifices made in service to our country. My husband, John Gainey Jr., has dedicated the past 18 years to the United States Air Force. He has enjoyed various career fields to include what he does now, as he is a special warfare recruiter. His journey has taken him to various places, including Minot, North Dakota, Kuwait, Afghanistan, Qatar, Africa, and our beloved Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. Our daughter, Stephanie Navarro, has also chosen to serve, spending the last 6 years in the United States Air Force. She has traveled to Germany, Japan, Fort Walton, Florida, and is currently a cadre for the ROTC program at Clemson University in South Carolina. Additionally, my brother Barack Barrera and his wife Liliana serve in the United States Navy as hospital corpsmen in Okinawa, Japan. Barack is set to retire this year after serving 21 years, while Liliana continues her dedicated service. As a former United States Navy hospital corpsman myself, I served for 8 years on active duty and 2 years in the reserves. I am deeply thankful for the sacrifices, bravery, and dedication of our family members who put their lives on hold for our freedoms. I am also grateful to the Lord for keeping them safe and allowing them to return home. John Gainey III said, "I'm glad that my dad, mom, sister, uncle, and aunt helped protect this country along with everyone else. I'm glad that people care to protect us and keep us safe." Catalea said, "I'm thankful that my mom, my sister, my dad, my uncle, and my aunt work in the military because they dedicate their lives for us. I'm thankful for all the other veterans that have served."